Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Country, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Primetime Sunday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Primetime Sunday on Focus on Liberia, we're going to be looking at Liberia's food insecurity. To be food insecure, we're going to be advancing some solutions to solve this problem. Just in case you are wondering, food insecurity means the lack of consistent access to enough food for an active, healthy life. It is a condition that can result from various factors, and we're going to be going through all that tonight. But we're going to be advancing solutions. Over the years, we've been struggling with food business. Our staple food rise, sometimes there's shortage, and there have been problems. So what is responsible for this, and how do we solve this problem? That is our topic tonight. If you have not already done so, please share the show, invite someone, and let's discuss solutions to Liberia food insecurity. I have Dr. Wooiklee Paye. He's an agricultural scientist. He's my guest tonight. He's been here more than 4 times now, but we've had issue with rice and food and what do we do. So we invited Dr. Paye. He's gracious enough to come back and tell us what can be done about Liberia's food insecurity. Dr. Paye, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Dennis. I'm glad to be here. It's been a little while since I was here the last time, but I'm glad to be back.
Thank you. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Let me tell you, Dr. Paye, you can Google his name. He has written a lot of peer-reviewed articles, papers on these issues. He's a scientist. Okay, he has worked both in Liberia and here, all behind this agricultural business. And so he knows a thing or two. He knows a little bit more than all of us here when it comes to food. And Dr. Paye, just your opening on this whole idea of food insecurity. What does it mean to be food insecure? Are we?
Yes. We as a country, Liberia, as a country is food insecure. And to be food insecure, it means to not have access to food, or to not have to food in general, and also to not have access to quality food. So Liberia as a country is food insecure. According to the FAO 2022-2023 annual report, 47% of Liberia is food insecure. So that means about 2.2 million Liberians on a daily basis, when they get up from bed, they are not sure that they're going to be eating that day. They're not sure what they're going to be eating. And out of that, 8% of the country is considered severely food insecure. And that means having one meal, or like what would be considered half of one meal per day. That's what severely food insecure means, which means you really got to go scrap around for things to eat. So yes, so we are food insecure. We need food in our country to make sure that the population is healthy, to make sure that people eat good food and they are therefore able to think and make good decisions. So yes, we are food insecure.
Dr. Paye, when you are food insecure in the case of Liberia, does it have to be rice or any food?
Food doesn't necessarily have to be rice. But in the case of Liberia, because rice is our staple, so when we don't have access to a stable supply of rice, then therefore we consider ourselves food insecure. But also we have other things in the country that we eat. So our two primary sources of calories in Liberia is rice and cassava. And Liberia does produce a decent amount of rice. It does produce a decent amount of cassava. But the local production is just not simply enough to meet the demand. So therefore, because we don't have, that production matching the demand, that makes us food insecure, because we have to depend on external sources for our supply of food. So that makes us extremely vulnerable to anything that happen, in places where our supplies are coming from. So food insecurity is not just simply about rice, shortage in Liberia. It's also about other food commodities that we depend on to survive as a nation. And now to just expand on that a little bit, sometime in Liberia is very easy when we have to just say, oh, because the country does not have rice, and therefore, we are food insecure because we don't have rice. But the thing here is that because we depend so much on rice, whenever we don't have enough rice or something happened to the price of rice on the market, it always creates problem, because we depend on the crop so much, even though there are other sources of food. So while it is true that diversifying our food, will help with the issue of food insecurity in Liberia, but it will take a long time, because the Liberian population heavily depend on rice. And that's why rice is always a critical issue in the country.
What is responsible for Liberia's food insecurity? I know that's a big, we can take a whole day to talk about it, but just in summary, why is the country food insecure?
So number one is poverty, a low income. The country, like I just told you, 47% is insecure, and more than 50% of the country live below the poverty line. So therefore, people are simply not making enough money to be able to buy the quantity and quality of food they need for their survival. So poverty is definitely one of them. And number two is also the lack of substantial agricultural production to match the local demand for food. Liberia is not producing enough food, especially the food that we depend on. Rice, for example. We eat a lot of rice. Liberia, on an annual basis, import more than 300,000 metric tons of rice to satisfy the demand. And then we produce about 180,000 metric tons of that locally. So you are talking about almost 500 to 600,000 metric tons of rice that we eat. But most of that is being imported into the country. So that's the issue we are facing over there, and that's why we are food insecure, because we are not producing enough food locally to satisfy our demand in the country, and that's something that needs to be taken seriously, because insecurity is a national security issue, and I always like to stress this because this is something that you know other international organizations that have worked with Liberia, even if you look at the CIA report on West Africa and all of that, they will tell you the problem of food insecurity is a big political problem in West Africa. That's why, in fact, most African countries, especially sub-Saharan African countries, are very, very much, vulnerable to instability because food insecurity is a major problem. And I'll just give you a prime example. When our rice riot happened in 1979, I know somebody will say, oh, we're going back to history again, but it's good to look back to history so that we can correct the future. So when the rice riot happened in Liberia in 1979, a lot of people think that thing only happened in Liberia. But no, it also happened in Guinea-Bissau. In 1980, they overthrew their government because they never had rice. The government was increasing the price of rice. And it's the labor union in Sierra Leone in 1981 also had a strike, for the increase in the price of rice. And also there was some disturbances in Nigeria around that same time. So just within a span of 3 to 4 years, more than 25 to 30% of West Africa was shaking only because they never had access to affordable rice. So it's a major national security problem when people are food insecure.
And just to make this point more, so people in food insecure in Liberia because they don't have the money to buy, but the food is there, or the food is not there at all, or a combination of.
It's a combination of both. So, like the recent incident that occurred, where people were very much dissatisfied about the increase in the price of rice. So this was not a problem of rice shortage on the Liberian market. It was a problem of people not having enough money, to be able to purchase rice at the new price at which the government was planning to sell it. They were planning to increase the price of rice, I think, by $2 or $3 or so. And then people are already struggling to buy the 25 kilogram bag of rice for $16.50 or $17. And then there were considerations of pushing that to $18.50 or $19. And then even the rice importer were pushing for $20 per 25 kg bag. So if somebody cannot already afford, to buy it for $16.50, how are they going to be able to buy it for $20 or $18.50, for example? So that issue, the recent issue was about enough income not being available to match the increase in the price. So that was that. But there are instances where the food security issue have been mostly because local production is not just enough, to meet the demand in the country. Excuse me.
And why is that? Why is it local production is not enough? I'm looking at, we talk about poverty and we talk about what's about, is it because these things cannot grow in Liberia, on a larger scale? Is it because they don't have the people or the manpower or, to make farm? Or is it that our government or administrations not importing enough food to feed everybody? Why do we have this? I want you to talk more on that.
Thank you. Before I come to that, let me just, back up a little bit and clarify why we had a recent issue with the increasing the price of rice in Liberia, because that's something that people need to know. Because Liberia is not producing enough rice in country, and we source most of our rice outside of the country. Therefore, the factor that determine the price of rice lie far beyond the border of Liberia. So Liberia import almost 60 to 70%, or maybe more than that. And this is a very, it's very likely I'm underestimating this, but we import a significant portion of the rice that we consume in the country. And most of that comes from India. We import a lot of rice from India. We import some from the United States, China, Brazil, Thailand, and Vietnam. But India, we rely on India for a lot of our rice. And now India had some problem in their country with the issue of climate change. The monsoon wind, the water, the rain is not coming at the time it's supposed to come to match the rice production season. And therefore, because the people know their climate, they projected that rice production was going to be lower. So now, excuse me, to secure the commodity in India for their local population, because India got 1.4 billion people, so they eat more rice than we do. And therefore, they got to make sure that there's enough supply for them. So to make sure that they do not run out of rice, they put an embargo on the export of non-basmati rice. So India produced the basmati rice, which the country consumes most of the time, but then there are other varieties of rice that they really do not consume, and that's the one that they export. But they wanted to make sure that, hey, just in case the crop failed this year, we want to make sure that there's enough rice inside India to supply the Indian market before we talk about the outside. And if that happens, the export of rice to other countries, it reduces. So that's why that will fail in Liberia. And if that happens, the only way, the government can continue with rice on the market is to increase the price, one, to raise some more money, and two, to also discourage people from relying on rice and try to diversify their food to eat other things. So that's why we had that rice problem. And another issue that, will affect, or is already affecting, not only rice, but the production of other commodities like flour and corn and oil, vegetable oil, for example, on the market, is the current Ukraine-Russia conflict that is going on. Because both countries are the largest producer of potash fertilizer, potassium fertilizer. So with this conflict, that fertilizer is not being distributed across the globe. And because of that, the cost of production of those things are also increasing. And therefore, if they come on the Liberian market, they will be expensive. Now, let's come to your question.
Yeah, before you get to that question. So we are buying rice from India, and now India has a problem. And so they are limiting their supply because they say, let's feed ourselves first.
Yep.
Why don't we buy from Thailand or Cambodia or somewhere else?
Because they don't produce enough to be able to export. They don't produce the same quantity that India produces. And therefore, their rice is more expensive than Indian rice. Okay. In agriculture production, number matters. If you, as a farmer, can produce 200 tons of rice, you have a bigger capacity to sell at a lower price, and therefore you will attract more customers than me, who is just simply producing 1 ton. Because a lot goes into production. So the bigger your production capacity, the more profitable your production becomes, as compared to when you're producing just little, then your input cost, it gets really high. So yes, we can source rice from other countries, but it will be expensive and the price will go up even higher.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now on the question of why? Yeah, the question I asked earlier.
The question you asked earlier about why,
Is it because government is not, or the administration is not doing it? Is it because rice is not growing in Liberia on that level? Is it because we don't have the tools to make the farm? We still try to find out why are we food insecure.
Okay. So it's not that rice cannot grow in Liberia. In fact, Liberia sits in a place where rice will do really well because we have the climate, we have the soil, and therefore we have most of the resources that we need to grow rice, because you will need the land and the climate. Those are the two major things. And then the next thing will be technology and expertise. So Liberia has over 4 to 5 million hectares of arable land, and over 600,000 of that is lowland that is very conducive for rice production. So the problem with land or area to produce the rice is not the issue. The issue is the expertise. People who knows how to do it to go and teach people how to do it. Now, it's not that there are not people in Liberia who knows how to grow rice. Okay? But people in Liberia know how to grow rice, but they don't have the means of doing it. Because rice production is not cheap. Okay? The way most of the rice that is produced in Liberia, the way it is done, is not profitable, and the output is never going to satisfy the local demand. Most of the rice in Liberia is produced upland. Every year, our people go and brush new forest land, cut it down, and plant rice, and then move to a new spot the following year. That kind of practice is labor intensive. It has a very big environmental footprint because it brings a lot of about forest deforestation, and also the population is increasing. So there will come a time that we're not going to be able to shift, because there's not just going to be enough land to shift to anymore. If you look back 20 years, 30 years, and look at the fallow period is the time that people leave the land to rest after they have farmed it, and then come back after some amount of time, and that land will have regained its natural fertility. So in Liberia, we rely heavily on the natural fertility of the land to produce, and that's why we have to shift to new forest land every year. But if you look over the last 2-3 decades, the time the shifting, the rotation for the shifting cultivation is shortening.
Yeah.
Before that, it used to be 10 years,
Right.
and then it was 7 years, and then
Right.
5 years. Now it's about 3 years on average.
I remember that 7 years. That's the time I was with my father making farm. It was 7 years.
Yes, 7 years, you farm, you leave the land, you go, and by the time you guys come back to that place, you got real forestry.
Yeah.
So the land will have regained its fertility, natural fertility. But now we don't have enough time to let that happen. And because of that, we are having problem with the proliferation of weed, of noxious weed that is actually hampering production, because the weed seed are not just staying long in the ground enough for them to die. So that's one major problem that we are having. So what needs to be done, what people need to teach people, is to move away from this shifting cultivation practice and go to sedentary farming, go to the lowland, develop this lowland, and then help the people also to develop the lowland. And that's where the government needs to come in with the expertise and help the people develop this lowland so that they can settle there and do their rice farming.
Do we have enough of that lowland in Liberia?
Well, I just told you we have 600,000 hectares. The state of Louisiana in the United States is the second largest producer of rice, or third largest producer of rice in the United States. And they do that on about 400,000 acre, not even hectare, on about 400,000 acre. So which is much smaller than the 600,000 hectare of lowland that we have in Liberia. So we have enough lowland. What we don't have is the capacity to develop the lowland, because people are not able to expand the lowland because, number one, they don't have machinery, and therefore they can't do all of that work with their body. And that's where some of these investment need to be directed to expand this lowland so that you can increase the size of production, and then bring agriculture inputs such as fertilizer, pesticides, so that you can be able to protect the crop and then give proper nutrition to the soil so that we can be able to increase our productivity.
What is the impact, or what has been the impact of this? I know you spoke a little bit about it, but let's look at the impact of food insecurity in Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
I think malnutrition is one of them, because if you can't eat, you get kwashiorkor.
Yeah, malnutrition is one of them, and also poor human development. The children go to school, they don't eat in the morning, they go to school, Most of them don't get to have recess. They stay hungry and come back home in the evening and have to walk miles to go on the farm and help their parents to find cassava leaf to beat it before they cook. And then they eat one meal late in the evening, and then they're not going to eat any other meal until the next day. How you expect that child to perform academically. A hungry person doesn't think well. So it's also affecting the human development of the country, because if the children go to school hungry, they will be focusing more about what they're going to eat than listening to what is being taught to them. And that's the reason why the USAID, the FAO, and the World Bank have launched several programs in the country where they are providing meals to students in schools so that they can help to reduce student hunger while they are in school. But that can only go so far. If if enough food is at home, where that child will leave home with breakfast, when they go to school, they will be able to listen until recess period, and then they have this school provided meal. Then they will be able to walk on that meal in their stomach to go back home and help their parents to find meal to cook. So the food insecurity is affecting the population health, is affecting the human development capacity of the country, and it's just making people poor, because most of the people in the country are simply working to find their next meal. Most of the people you find in real life selling, they are selling so that they can start their day for that day, as they call it. Because in Liberia, if you haven't eaten anything, you say your day hasn't started, even if it's 4 p.m. Your day hasn't started until you eat anything. So most of the people are simply just hustling to get their day started. If you understand the jargon I'm trying to use here, because I'm speaking to my Liberian people, and I wanted to understand how passionate I am about this topic.
People, and really, as you speak about that, I'm trying to reflect, because I was that child who walked from the village to go to the town for school, cross 4 creeks, and there's no lunch, right, or recess. We pick oranges, or we go to butter pear, whatever you eat.
Yep.
And you have to walk back 1 hour to go on the farm.
Yep.
We get on the village, you go on the farm before you eat.
Yep.
So, and then the next morning you have to go to school, and then you have to present your homework. I mean, what time do you have to do homework?
You got to present your homework. And luckily, right now, I'm not sure how it is in Liberia now, but I don't think they are whooping people anymore for going to school late and all of that. But during those days, if you went to school late, you still got whooped for going to school late, even though you are dealing with all these challenges from home in your head.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. They expect you to be there on time and all of that, and they expect you to pass your classes. But because everybody is inside, people just think it's normal to live, but it is not. If people are hungry, if students are hungry, they will not be able to learn properly. And that's the reason why you see, when they give national exam, they give university entrance exam, you see students are performing poorly. This food insecurity issue has a great impact on the human resource of the country. And that's something that any serious government should address. It's not just about taking to the street because the government said they're going to increase the price of rice by $2 or $3. You should look beyond the horizon and see how this issue of food security is actually impacting the future of the country. Because the children, the school-age children, are the future of the country. And if these children cannot go to school and be able to listen and understand the lesson that is being taught on a day-to-day basis only simply because they are hungry, then we are in big trouble.
And I'm looking at even the ripple effect, right? First, we talk about 79 rice riots. So food insecurity can lead to civil unrest.
Oh, yeah. And when I began, I told you it's a national security issue. And I was telling you something from the CIA report on West Africa. This is a serious national security issue. And in fact, in Liberia, rice and gasoline, they are called political goods. It's a well-known thing among government officials. And that's the reason why the government, every government, not just the government, every government before it, after the rice riot in 1979, they prefer to subsidize the importation of rice than the production of rice. because subsidizing the importation of rice is a quick fix to the national security threat that exists in the country. Because every time people cannot afford rice, they will take to the street. So in order for the government to make sure that the country is peaceful, they subsidize rice importation. But just see how very not smart that is. Because if you subsidize rice importation, you are losing government revenue. Now, what that means, subsidy means you are giving money to the importers or you are relaxing import taxes. Any kind of way you do it, you are losing money. So what I think the government should do is to focus their effort towards local production because that is sustainable.
And we'll get to the solution. I still want to ask about, like, even we talk about corruption. If someone is focused on just eating for that day, right? And I don't want to take this so political, but that person is focused. It's just what you're going to eat, so you're going to look the other way. So when you get corrupt because you are only thinking about eating. If someone comes to you to run to campaign for anything, you are only looking in his pocket what he's able to give you for that day to eat.
Yeah.
You don't care about any long-term, any future plans. It's just about the now because you are hungry.
I mean, there's an old saying that he who controls your stomach controls your mind. So if people are hungry people are the most desperate people on this planet. If you are hungry, or if your child is hungry, as a parent who loves their child, you will do whatever is needed to be done to make sure that that child has some food in their stomach. And if that means compromising your political decision because somebody brought a bag of rice to you during the campaign time, you will do that. Because that person, because you are hungry and you are desperate, that person now looks to you like a savior. Even though if their agenda is just for their personal, gain. So if you are hungry, you don't make the right decision. People don't make right decision when they are hungry, and our politician knows that.
And so it even means politician can keep you hungry so that you can do what he wants you to do.
Oh yeah, seriously. I mean, some of the in history, I'm not talking about the current issue that happened, but some of the time that rice have been, short. There have been shortage of rice in Liberia. It has just simply been because of hoarding. People hold the goods and not put it on the market because they are not happy with the government or because some politician want to use it to create instability in the country. So they create a situation where they create artificial shortage of rice on the market. And because they know that when that happens, people will take to the street. So the Liberian people are just being played with this rice thing. But anybody that is serious about solving the issue of rice in Liberia, about finding a lasting solution, they will be hyper focused on increasing local production, stabilizing the price, and not depend on external sources. Now, we cannot completely eliminate the importation of rice in Liberia. In fact, no country can completely eliminate the importation of anything because food for that matter, people have different preferences, right? There are so many different varieties of rice on the market, different quality, different tastes, and people prefer different rice. But what I'm arguing here is that if we have enough Liberian rice on the market, if somebody, if Liberian rice on the market is enough and affordable and going for $16, $15, and somebody wanted to eat rice from India, and that rice from India is $20 or $25, that's their problem. They have an option that is available. You understand? But right now, that option is not there. So therefore, once the rice price increase, that means everything stopped. Because we don't even have, the only option we have is the one that is coming out of the country. And the most disheartening thing about this is that even people in the counties are now waiting for rice to come from Monrovia so they can buy.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Because if you are sitting in Nimba, in Lofa, in Bon, in anywhere in the interior counties, and you're not producing, or rice is not available in those places, and you're waiting for a truck to come from Monrovia to rice to put it in a shop for you to buy, that's a problem. So, so people need to take this food production seriously. I hear people say that, oh, the issue of production is not going to solve the rice problem in Liberia. Where in this world have you seen a country that produce enough of its own food starve or go striking for food problem?
And Dr. Paye, that leads us to the solutions to food insecurity. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, we are discussing Liberia's food insecurity. We lay out the cause, the effect. Now let's go to the solution. But the solutions we're going to talk about, I know some of them have been spoken about before, but what has been tried in the past as a form of solution? I know this problem of food insecurity is not just today. Of late, we have had different solutions being advanced. And I want you to, one of it, because we are importing food. So when the current administration, what it did, there was a suspension of import tariff on rice. The president said the objective of this strategic measure is to ease the economic burden on the citizens and residents within our borders, maintain stability, create marketability and accessibility of rice. Since Liberia relies on rice heavily on imported rice, and given that government assessment and evaluation to reveal that there will be continual increase in the price of rice for the foreseeable future, there must be measure to offset. And that measure, one of it was to suspend the tariff on rice. That's one measure. And that is another thing the government did of recently. I know there have been other measures in the past. Recently, there was a committee on rice. It says this committee on rice was set up by the president, and the reason or their purpose, what they're supposed to accomplish, one, to formulate policy to ensure constant, steady supply of rice in the country, to formulate strategy for accelerated local production of rice and import substitution, ensure Liberia participation in the importation and distribution of rice throughout the country, formulate policy for the effective reactivation and management of the Rice Stabilization Fund, ensure database of rice, price comparison of major rice producing countries, and the grades of rice. These are some of the measures that the current government have put in place.
Okay.
Besides that, this also has an arrest agenda that is all built around agriculture.
Okay. Now, I'm going to start responding to this question with rhetorical questions. Okay. Relaxing the import tariff on rice. Has that not been done in Liberia before?
Many times.
Has it worked?
Maybe a stopgap measure only.
That's what I call window dressing problem solution. It's not a lasting solution. Okay, I remember when George Weah became president, I think in the first month or so, one of the first things he did was to call together the rice importer to see how best they can negotiate with business people to see how they can bring down the price of rice. A government negotiating with business people as if to say the business people are in the interest of the government to bring down the price of rice. This is the same thing that this government is doing. This is not going to work. This will just make the government to lose revenue, precious revenue that they need to invest in the agriculture sector to increase local rice production. Subsidizing the importation of rice is never going to work because we as a country do not control the price of rice on the international market. Whatever affects the price of rice, as I told you, lies beyond the border of Liberia. So therefore, subsidizing, so you subsidize the price of rice this year. So next year again, if the weather is not good in India, or India cannot get enough fertilizer to give to their farmers to produce rice, and they increase the price of rice, what are you going to do? Subsidize again? Keep subsidizing? Keep subsidizing? That's not going to work. What's going to work is to increase local production, create a steady supply, and not be dependent on the outside market for your supply. So it's a quick fix. Yes, right now that will help to keep the rice price at 16 or 17.50 or whatever it is now in Liberia. But that is not a long-term solution for the problem, because this has been done before. It worked for a short time, and then there was noise again, and the government called the business people to negotiate again. It worked. These business people are not in the interest of the government. Whatever they can do to increase or maximize their profit, that is what they're going to do. So this was a mistake. I think what the government needs to do is to, remain hyper focused on increasing local rice production. Now, let's go to the committee.
Mm-hmm.
That was,
and let's underline that, because I want us to come to it, about local production. But let's look at the committee.
Yeah. So let's go to the committee. So we had issue with an increase in the price of rice on the local market. That's the issue we had. And our response as a country was to form a committee to find out why that happened. Right now, in 2024, we don't know why rice price is increasing in Liberia. We don't know. We need a committee to find that out. No, we don't. We don't need a committee to find out why the price of rice is going on, because we know why as a government. What we need to do is to find a solution to the problem. So what the government is doing now is like, having a medical problem, go to several doctor and they diagnose, but then instead of going to take the recommended treatment that they are all recommending, you're still going to find another doctor to get a 10th or 20th opinion. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. We know why there's always a problem of rice shortage in Liberia. We know why rice prices is always fluctuating on the Liberian market. We know why anytime there's problem with the price of any commodity that Liberia depend on, rice, vegetable oil, egg, milk, on the international market, we know why that price always reflect on the Liberian market. We know. Let us stop pretending that we don't know. We know the problem. The problem is that we don't have enough rice in the country that we need, that we produce. Therefore, we depend on people in other countries to produce it for us. So the way we solve that is by producing, our own rice. Okay? If your child go to your neighbor house all the time, your child cry there, the way to find solution to that is not to go call the town chief to come find out why your child always go to that neighborhood and cry. Somebody there is beating your child. So stop, either go and confront the person or stop your child from going to the neighbor house. That's it. Find solution to the problem. What by now I would have done, and this is going to be controversial with a lot of people in Liberia, because they say the government is not supposed to make fun. What I think the government should do, instead of forming a committee to go find out why there's a problem with the rice issue, the government of Liberia should be forming a rice production task force within the Ministry of Agriculture, headed by the minister. Put top scientists in charge of that task force who know how to identify places, set large rice production farm, and those farms will serve two purposes. They will produce enough rice to help to curb, the high price of rice on the Liberian market, and they will also serve as a demonstration site for people to see ordinary Liberian, because nobody have tried mechanized rice production in Liberia before and failed. Sometimes you tell the people, they say, "Oh, it can't work. It can't work." No, well, I take that back, because there was the ADA project that happened in 4 years, but that was strictly political. But nobody who have had a serious intent, now let me qualify that, have had a serious intent to go into mechanized rice production and did it sincerely and failed. So if the government set up farms where people see, they say, oh, this thing can really work, then these will serve as trailblazer to help people to go into mechanized rice production. And once people grasp the concept of mechanized rice production, the government can gradually, withdraw and leave it in charge of the citizen. But right now, people don't know how to do it. People don't know how to lay out, 300 acre, 3,000 acre farms. But if the government have scientists that know how to do that, the government have engineers, the government have agriculture scientists, they got plant breeders, soil scientists, irrigation engineer. Some of them I know personally, they are right there in Liberia. So instead of forming this committee that's going to figure out why rice price is increasing, where everybody knows, anybody who have access to smartphone that follow the news, international news, know why it's happening, we're supposed to be forming a production task force and charge them with a responsibility and measurable outcomes that we can be able to follow. Whether this is a 2-year plan, whether this is a 5-year plan, that's what we're supposed to be doing. Not forming a committee of people that will go sit in a hotel room to brainstorm and put an Excel sheet together of how much rice is coming in the country and how much rice is not coming in the country. Don't we know that already? I think we do. And let's stop wasting our time and government resources and get serious about business.
And sometimes I'm sitting here wondering, don't tell me people in Liberia or people in successive administration, they don't know these things. I mean, like you said, there are soil scientists in Liberia, there are irrigation engineers, there are all these people in Liberia.
Yeah.
But why? Why are we to the same place?
Because the resources are not being directed to the right place. Agriculture is being practiced on the lips. People say we're going to do it. You read some of the document, you read some of the policies that are on the book. You feel like, wow, this country should be out of poverty. This country should be food secure by 5 years, 10 years from now. This country should be food secure. But there's lack of implementation of some of these things. So, and that's the reason why I say the government should set a task force and charge them with measurable goals. Okay, for this 2023 or 2024 crop production cycle, our target, the target of this particular production task force is to produce 20 metric tons. And here are the resources that you need to do that. You need land clearing equipment, here you go. You need fertilizer, here you go. You need scientists, hey, you, scientists, soil scientists, plant breeder, seed scientists, all of you form part of this team. You are charged with it. Now, find the people who will do the physical work, but you will be the technocrat that will gear this program or this project to where we want it to go. And at the end of the day, at the end of the year, we will hold you accountable for these resources that we are giving you. And then let them go for 4 or 5 years and see what they do. But we got so much agriculture policy on the book now that it doesn't make sense to be putting a committee together at this time to formulate policy. I mean, no disrespect to policy, but people don't eat policy. People eat food. So food is what we need to produce and not more policy.
So maybe in a way, step by step. So what do we need to do to solve this problem?
What we need to do is to encourage local food production.
What does that mean?
What does that mean is that, number one, go and make farm. Train people how to make farm. Create access to improve planting material. Open the market, let people be able to import agriculture, implement and agricultural inputs, planting material, pesticides, fertilizer, and all of that. Create access to finance. The current president, he used to head the Ministry of Agriculture and then the LPMC, and then at the time, they had a Liberian Agriculture Development Bank. He knows about how all these institutions help to strengthen the Liberian agriculture sector when he was in charge of some of these institutions. People don't have access to finance. Agriculture, farming requires money. Now, the banks that are in Liberia, they don't give loan at fair rate to agricultural practices to farmers. So the Agricultural Cooperative Development Bank or similar institution with similar purpose needs to be created. Money needs to be there so that people can be able to access loan to buy fertilizer, to buy machines, to buy advanced seeds to be able to grow enough rice. That's all we need to do. Another thing that needs to be done is we need to open the roads, because when you produce 20 tons of rice, you can't throw it on your head and bring it to Morovia. If you are in, Butuo or whatever small town that you are in that is inaccessible by vehicle, then that's a problem. So we need to open the roads. I saw a lot of yellow machines coming in the country recently. I hope this machine will be used for some of these purposes. Open the roads, because agriculture requires machines, and you can't drive machines into a forest tree. There has to be a road so that people can be able to transport some of these things I'm talking about to their farm. So there has to be a road. Now, you need to create processing facilities. So that means electricity needs to be in the country. You need to provide stable and affordable electricity, because that way people will be able to process some of their goods, add value to it, create job in the process, and then prolong the shelf life of these goods. And once you prolong the shelf life of whatever we depend on, then you create a stable supply. You understand? Right now, if you go to Liberia, plum now are 505, because there's plum everywhere. Mango, for people who are not Liberian that are watching the show, in Liberia, we call mango plum. So mango is everywhere in the country right now, because these are all seasonal things. But if we can find a way to process and make juice out of it, then we don't have to wait for mango juice to come from Ghana or Sierra Leone or Guinea for us to drink. And if you do that in the process, you'll be creating jobs. If you went over there and opened a mango juice processing factory, you're not going to run it by yourself. You're going to employ people. And you're not in the process, you're not directly involved with the production of mango, but that processing, that value addition process, you are creating jobs. So the government need to see value inside. So this is some of the ways that we can ensure, this problem of food shortage on the Liberian market. We increase production, and the way we do it is grow food first, and then make sure that we can bring it to the market. We can bring our assets to the market. So that means we should have rows. And then when we bring our assets to the market, we're not going to sell all in the day that we bring it to the market. We should be able to keep it around for weeks, for months, for years. And the way we do that is to process it. And what makes processing easy is stable and affordable electricity.
Dr. Paye, all these things cost a lot of money. Liberia doesn't have money, right? So what do we do? Because the problem has been there's no money. So when people get in power, in fact, there is how much we're supposed to spend on agriculture in our budget. We're not even close to that, right? Mm-hmm. And also, so as a result, you just do the little bit, which is the band-aid solutions. Import it, remove the tariff, subsidize, just to get you going.
Yeah.
Because the money is not there. So, what do? We
don't have money, but we have development partners. We have international NGOs and friendly government that put a lot of money into Liberia. Okay? So we need to work with our development partners, with the NGOs, so that their project that they bring, the purpose, the objective of that project can align with the agricultural development goal of the country. That's one way we can do. That way we can be able to direct this money strictly into production. We need to tell the people, okay, you are bringing a $10 million project. We understand you want to do this, you want to do that, but this is our priority. This is what we want to do. And we can divert some of this money there. Okay, we can take money from other sector of the government and make agriculture a high priority, institution, that this is where we want to solve this problem in the next 5 or 6 years. So therefore, we're going to take $10 million from the legislature's budget and put it directly into crop production and have measurable outcome. And in that process, you will be generating money. The country does not have money, but we send $200 million to India every year to buy rice from them. So what if we can produce half of that in Liberia? That means we can raise $100 million within the border of Liberia.
James Colley Galakba is a farmer in Liberia. He's writing, he said, we have rice production institution in Liberia called National Rice Federation of Liberia, but unfortunately, the government isn't willing to invest in it. He also said, currently, as we speak, Camara has mailed 50 tons of rice into the country. He currently selling them both in Lofa, Nimba, and Bong. I don't know if Camara is producing them in Liberia or what he's doing. Emmanuel JJ said, political will for agriculture and rice production is lacking in Liberia. These are some of the questions.
Well, that's true. That's true. The political will is lacking. There's no serious government interest into solving this problem, because once government create a serious interest, and create measurable goals and follow and pursue those goals, we can solve this problem. The people who are being able to solve this problem for their countries, they're not smarter than us. They just took action.
And maybe this is a rhetorical question you don't have to answer me, is why? Why will anybody who talk about these things don't have the political will once they have the authority? I mean, why?
It's a beautiful question.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why we can't do it. Liberia is not a desert. All the things that we need for rice production, or that nature provides, the land, water, and climate, we have it. The rest of the other things that we need, machineries and fertilizer, we can source it. We can find it and bring it into the country and do this. It just needs somebody with the mind that is serious about it and get out there and set the example. And then once the people pick it up, then you can gradually step back and let it flow.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining and you want to participate in the discussion, the number to call is 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. We are discussing Liberia's food insecurity. Two things I want you to mention talk about quickly before our callers come in is, someone would tell you, well, it's easily said and done. Well, what are the challenges that a country that we will face? Take climate change, for example. Are there other challenges when we talk about food insecurity that we will? Because I don't want to believe that people who have the authority, they just don't want to do it. Maybe they are facing some problems that they are not telling us. What are some of the issues, or what are some of the challenges when it comes to being food secure?
Well, you mentioned earlier about climate change. Definitely climate change is affecting the entire world, and Liberia is not excluded. If you see the pattern of rainfall in our country, it has changed over the years. Anybody who have been in the country for a long time and paying attention to these things, it has changed. So that's one thing that is a challenge in itself. And that's one thing that we all going to have to learn how to adapt, just like the rest of the world. But now when you talk about mechanized production of agricultural commodities on the Liberia market, there's going to be a learning curve, because we have not ventured into this territory before. So we're not just going to go tomorrow and start producing, 300,000 metric tons of rice next year. There's going to be a learning curve. People are going to have to catch up with some of the technologies. People are going to have to know how to operate machines, tractors. People are going to learn how to run a rice mill, including the dryer and the processing. And people are going to learn the technology of keeping the rice in storage and protecting it. So there's definitely going to be a learning curve. So whatever we are discussing here, it may have a slow beginning, but gradually as people learn, they're going to pick up. So that's going to be one challenge, because while we may have people who know how to do the production, but when it comes out of the farm, production doesn't just end there. The processing, storage, and all of that, marketing, everything, it needs expertise. So there's going to be a slow start for sure, and that in itself is already a challenge. That the fact that people don't have the technical know-how how to operate some of these things that we are talking about here, but that's okay. We learn by making mistakes. If you never try, you never learn. We've never tried this before. So we need to get in there and do something. So when you talk about some of the challenges, that's definitely one thing I see, that people are going to need time to get adjusted to this idea of mechanized farming, producing a lot of goods and all of that. And also building these roads that I'm talking about is not just going to happen overnight. It need money, it need machinery, to build the roads to reach this farm, and that's going to take time.
Yeah.
But
and Dr. Paye, currently there are areas that we can make the farm where we have roads.
Yeah. So now the next thing now is for somebody to get up and go do it. It's for somebody to get up and go make the investment into farming. Farmers need education. So we need to train enough extension officers to go into the community and stress the importance of not moving from one forest land to the next every year while you have a big swamp right by the town and everybody else is passing by it because they don't know the value of it. So they need this information to get to the farmers. We need research. There are things about the Liberian ecosystem, the Liberian soil. Some of them we know, we don't know all of them. So there needs to be a robust research program in place to help to answer, because when people start doing these things, they will encounter problem. Questions will be asked. And those questions can be formulated into research problem, and solution can be found to help the farmers to move forward with their production activity. So these are some of the things that we will encounter, and we can find solutions, but we need to get the ball rolling, because we can't talk about food problem every year. Every government that comes, the first thing they always got to deal with is, if it's not rice, it's gas. Now, for the gas thing, I know it will be out of our control for a long time because we don't produce petroleum locally, and therefore we cannot, refine it locally. But we have the ability to produce rice. So let's take care of that. You are muted, Dennis.
Dr. Paye, I want you to start thinking about this question as I bring in our first caller, is what else can we produce? Because I'm thinking, because we have animals, we have other things, we have other crops, even what other things can we produce that even if we are not able to produce rice on a large scale, we can produce those things, sell them, and buy the rice? Or is it? So let's think about that. Let me bring on my first caller here. And again, ladies and gentlemen, call the number that's on your screen. Our first caller is Kalebo Gonglo. Mr. Gonglo, you're live. Go ahead, sir.
Great show. Dr. Paye, how you doing?
I'm pretty good, sir. How are you?
My name is Kalebo Gonglo. I'm calling from the state of Pennsylvania. I listened to you, Kim. I think you struck some good points on the agriculture sector, but I have a little disagreement on some of the issues you raised, but very minor. I would like to share my experience in the meeting with you. I'm currently watching a video also of a Liberian who came from the Netherlands called Kali Dukle. He made a farm of watermelon. He's producing more than 1,000 watermelon. No market for that in Monrovia. I'm just watching the video. Everything is getting rotten in the field and in the warehouse. All the supermarkets, they say they don't have space for it. Good quality watermelon. No. In Liberia, I have more than 200 pigs right there in my Barkley, 20 minutes away from Monrovia. I go to the market, because there are so many rotten frozen meat that allow to be brought in the country very cheap by Lebanese merchants and fuller merchants from Brazil and all the European countries. We are competing with them. We can sell our locally produced healthy meat on the market. And the government is clueless about what's going on. All they do, they just give LPD, import permit declaration to the Lebanese for bring in frozen meat because it's cheaper, because the people have no job, low income. It's cheaper for them to eat the unhealthy food. But the healthy meat that we produce locally, nobody to buy it. So I'm left here because I live in the U.S. I'm able to send money every time to buy the animal feed, which is quite expensive. Anywhere in the world, animal feeds are very expensive. So
Yeah, and the longer you keep those animals, the more you have to pay to keep feeding them.
Production, you can produce, but the market is not there. You'll be frustrated and you leave the field. So we need more than just production. That's my point.
Thank you.
No, yeah, you have a very strong point, and that's why earlier I was talking about value addition. You know, if we have stable electricity, the farmers, the farmer you are talking about in Lofa that's producing a lot of watermelon that is just going to waste, he can be able to keep that watermelon in a controlled environment and prolong the shelf life of that watermelon for 1 to 2 months. It will still be fresh. But because we don't have stable electricity in the country, he's not able to do that. Okay, and you have your pigs right in Mount Barkley. That is just about what, maybe 5 to 10 miles from Monrovia, but you are not able to compete. You're not able to compete with foreign pork on the Liberian market because they are cheaper than your pig that you have growing right in Mount Barkley, and that's because your input cost, all the feed that you are buying to feed this pig, is high, and when you bring it to the market, you want to sell it at a rate where you can make profit. And if you do that, you'll not be able to compete with pigs that are being imported into the country. But the problem there is that this is just you as a single farmer that have this situation. Now, if we had 10,000 of you that have 4,000 to 5,000 pigs to bring on the Liberian market, and you brought your pig on the market and sell your fresh pig, your fresh pork, you sell it at the same price or lower than the price of the imported pig. The people that are importing pig will not be able to do that because it takes them time to be able to import pig into the Liberian market. But because you are doing it on a small scale, it's expensive for you to do, and it's expensive for you to be profitable. So while I agree production is not the only problem, but volume also matters in Liberia. In agriculture, the production volume, it matters a lot. So thank you very much. You had a very legit concern, and I respect that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's very and it's not plenty enough to say, well, we're going to be exporting to Sierra Leone or to Nigeria.
Exactly.
And that's what makes it now. So so how do we start? So someone like Calabo now, what does he do? Or is it that, and then with the person with watermelon, is it that he did not do proper market analysis to see whether this was going to be profitable, this was going to sell, he was going to find a market for it? What do you
think? Agricultural goods, they are mostly seasonal. And what a farmer could be running into is that it's a watermelon season now. So everybody is bringing watermelon. So it is just surplus on the market, and his customers don't have room to store this watermelon when they bring it to the market. So now if there was a value addition process in Liberia, this watermelon could be sent to a factory and juiced, and make watermelon juice out of it and put it in packages and put it on the shelf in a supermarket, and it will be there for months, and the farmer will still be able to realize some income from his watermelon. But right now, his only option is to sell it fresh and nothing else. Earlier, I was talking about mango, and the same thing happened when it is the cabbage or the oranges or any agricultural produce for that matter. Whenever there is a season for it, a lot of it is produced but we can consume all within that time, and that's the reason why we are be able to prolong their shelf life, so that even when they are out of season, they are still available.
Thank you.
You and myself, when we go to Walmart, some of the oranges we buy there, they were not produced yesterday.
Yeah.
They were produced months ago, but it's because people are able to save, to store them and protect them in storage, so you have a stable supply throughout the year.
Let's talk about other crops, right? And mainly, what else can we grow?
Well, like Liberian agriculture is very diverse. So for most part on this show, we have been discussing food crops. Okay. But Liberia is also a decent producer of a lot of cash crop. And rubber is our prime example. You know, rubber is our prime export.
It's rubber that got us hungry with rice issues. So we don't want to produce rubber anymore.
We don't want to produce rubber, but we are also producing cocoa.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to produce rubber.
I was thinking even beans, right? I mean, I don't know why. I mean, that's what we ate during the war years that kept us alive. I don't know if beans can be produced on a massive scale.
Oh yes, beans can be produced on a massive scale in Liberia. But again, like I was saying earlier, somebody needs to start. Somebody needs to show that it can be done. Historically, the beans that have been on the Liberian market have been produced mostly in Lofa in Bone County. The Paye tuber, for example, it primarily comes from Lofa, and it does very well there. So people can go into beans production. Plantain grows very well in Liberia. You know, you can open a plantation and you will have a market for it right there in the sub-region in Ghana and Ivory Coast. And even in Liberia, people eat a lot of plantain nowadays. You know, so other food crops and cash crop can grow there. And earlier on, you were asking me, you know, if we can't produce the rice, can we produce other things that we can sell and buy the rice? You know, those are some of the things that we can do. But you have to produce large quantity to make it profitable. You know, you can't tell me, say, I will produce 200 bags of beans, you know, to send it to Nigeria. Come on, Nigeria is not able to produce 200 bags of beans. But if you have, you know, 150 metric tons that you can't sell in Liberia, then somebody can be able to bring their ship to collect 150 metric tons, not 20 bags. So to make it marketable, you got to make agriculture marketable and profitable, you got to make it big. That's the only way, especially to make the kind of profit that we are talking about, producing things and selling it, and then bringing the income into the country so that we can use that income to buy rice if we can't produce rice in the country. You got to do it on a large scale.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paye. Gabriel Galapa is still writing. He said farmers need to deal with many problems, including how to cope with climate change, oil erosion, and biodiversity loss, satisfy consumers' changing tastes and expectations, meet rising demand for more food of higher quality, invest in farm productivity, adapt and learn new technologies, stay resilient against global economic factors, inspire young people to stay in rural areas and become future farmers, access to market, access to loan, grant, etc.
Those are most of the things we've been discussing here today.
Right, and James is a farmer in Liberia that he's doing really well. He was on the show before. But
Okay.
Dr. Paye, thank you very much for your time. I want us to wrap up. I know we have covered a lot. If there's anything you want people watching the show to take away, including policymakers, what would that be as we conclude?
We need action. In Liberia, we need action right now. We need to take action. We need to get out there and start the process of food production to make sure that we are food secure. You know, we don't need to form more committee. We already know what the problem is. We need to get out there and solve it. Take action, people. Increase local food production. Rice is the problem in Liberia. We depend on rice. Let us increase local rice production, or else every time the Indian farmer get tired of going to work or can't go to work because the rain fell and the river water is flooded and their field is underwater, we are going to get hungry in Liberia. That is just the truth. No way around that. The only way we can ensure the stable supply of food on the Liberian market is to make sure that we control the supply of food. If we can't control the supply of food, we cannot control the price of it. We are at the mercy of the international market. Whatever happens on the international market will continue to influence the cost of food on the Liberian market. And this is not a single government issue. It is something that we all as a country need to come together to solve. So let the government start, I think that they can control the price of rice on the Liberian market, unless they want to do it artificially. But naturally, as it is right now, as long as the factor of rice production in those rice producing countries where we get our rice, as long as they get disturbed, the price of rice will get disturbed on the Liberian market, and there will always be noise. So the only way we can ensure that our country is full secure is to make sure that we have control over the supply of our staple food on the market. And the way we can have control over it is to produce enough ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Paye, and thank you for your time. I know you are a little under the weather, but you were able to come through and tell us everything that we needed to know about food insecurity in Liberia. Really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. And if any of the viewers have questions, you can always reach me. I'm very visible on the internet. You can always get to me. And if you have questions, I'm always willing to have a conversation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to thank our viewers also for watching. And even those who will watch later, I understand when things are not political, they don't have all the attention that they deserve. But as one former president said, when agriculture goes wrong, everything goes wrong. And so feeding ourselves, getting food to eat is very important. Sometimes when you are hungry in class, those days I remember, is your brain is freezing. Energy, I mean, you can see that something is not getting to the brain. So this is very important. I mean, even the way we grow in Liberia, because it's like almost everybody is malnourished. So this is very important. Thank you so much for the time. Always follow Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. At this time, we're going to close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night, and God bless you.
Thank you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.